Jets Talk. Here's your host, Connor Long.
Flight Jets Talk. Let's roll.
This is NY Flight Jets Talk with Connor Long. NY Flight Jets Talk. We're talking Jets. NY Flight Jets Talk with special guests. NY Flight Jets Talk. Here's your host, Connor Long. Jets.
What is going on, New York Jet fans? Hello, everyone. Welcome back here into another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk as we come to you guys live right here on this Saturday afternoon, August 8th, 2026. Thank you all for hanging out with us right here on the program. Hit like, hit subscribe on your way into the building. I take it I cut out during my little preview there, so let me know if you guys can hear me, if my Wi-Fi is good, if I need to reset something, so keep me posted in that regard. Thank you all for joining us right here on the channel. I'm your host, Connor Long. Hit like, hit subscribe on your way into the building. It is completely free and continues to help us grow right here on the channel. Questions, comments, thoughts, throw all of those in the chat. We are going to get to those throughout the course of the program. And joining me today right here on this Saturday afternoon, my colleague over at JetsXFactor.com, the great Omari Brown, giving us some of his time right here on the show. Omari, happy Saturday. How you doing, my friend?
Happy Saturday, Connor, man. How's it going? Yeah, we got a scrimmage. We're starting to get the training camp updates going. So excited to talk to you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, I'm super happy that you are able to be here. Yes, scrimmage day in Florham Park. I wonder when the last time they've had this green and white scrimmage going with none of the general public in attendance, just season ticket holders today. And didn't seem like a lot of people missed too much there. Omari, just following along on Twitter, your top takeaways today before we get into some of the injury news.
My top takeaways is that we need to stop tracking practice stats. All right. Just let the guys play, allow the offense to take chances, allow the quarterback to take chances, allow the players to work through it, because it is practice. It's almost it would be like, Connor, if we were, ramping up for whatever job that we were doing and everybody was critiquing us on, practice. So let's just allow practice to be practice. But, there are some good things, and we're going to get away from that too. But, I would just implore everybody to remember that this is practice. We have rookies that are acclimating to the NFL. We have guys that are acclimating to different teams. And now we have a defense and an offense
Omari?
that are learning new schemes.
Okay, perfect. You cut out for a second, but we got you.
Oh, got you.
Your camera cut out. I got the bulk of what you're saying there.
Got you.
Agree with you 100% on the training camp stuff. In terms of stats and just tracking these guys practice by practice. The thing that's been the most encouraging to me, and I haven't been out in Florham Park yet. I will be out there though on the 17th with a credential. But just following along and seeing what everyone who's been on the scene has said, and bringing these reporters who've been in Florham Park on the show. We had Rich Cimini on last week. The thing that has been most encouraging to me is we're seeing the aggressiveness from Geno Smith. That's what I want to see in training camp. I don't give a crap if he's 12 for 20. I don't give a crap if he's 18 for 20 with hundreds of yards and multiple touchdowns. I want to see someone who is willing to take shots downfield. I want to see the deep ball get to the realm of where it was when he was with the Seattle Seahawks. Remember that, Omari? Just the deep reports that he would build with those receivers, Tyler Lockett, guys of that nature, and how effective he was in that regard. The thing that's so encouraging for me about Geno is we've seen the accuracy and we've seen him flash in training camp. Although I think it's important for people not to get too excited about that because, what you expect from Geno Smith on the practice field? This is someone who is wearing a red penny. He's not getting hit. He doesn't have to worry about pressure, which has been his biggest weakness throughout the course of his career, struggling when the pocket starts to collapse and he's under duress. What do you expect from him? We know who he is as a passer. He's been very accurate the past few years. He has a strong arm. He throws a pretty ball, as Rich Cimini said on the program last week. It's encouraging, sure, and I'd rather see more of the positive performance than the converse. But I think people are overreacting a little bit with the strong performances from Geno Smith.
Well, I think the unfortunate thing is, Connor, like you're right, you're spot on, but I think the bar is so low.
Yeah.
Like there were times when Zach Wilson, the ball was hitting the ground a lot. There were times with Justin Fields that the ball was hitting the ground a lot. We watched a lot of Brady Cook snaps. We watched a lot of Brady Cook football last year, so the bar is pretty low. So I think fans and even Garrett Wilson, they're just hyped to see the ball come out with some zip.
Sure.
The ball is where it's supposed to be, and you're able to stress the defense. So like the things that I'm looking for in practice, well, we could start off. I'm not sure exactly where you want to go. My whole thing is it's about this team building an identity. And I've been saying this on all the shows that I've been on. One thing that the Jets offense hasn't been able to do in a while, they haven't been able to dictate to the defense. I feel like the Jets offense have always been playing on their heels and very conservative. Like we already know on early downs is going to be some sort of a draw dive going back to the Adam Gase era. Now, as soon as you step in between the lines, the defense is going to have the defense is going to have to worry about being stressed vertically. And I think that's one thing Geno and A.D. Smith and even Omar Cooper Jr. and Isaiah Williams, they're going to bring a different element to that. And, I took some notes from Frank Reich's media availability yesterday. Talked about, Geno's leadership. He talked about, healthy tension. And I think that's what you're starting to see a little bit today, too.
Sure.
It got a little chippy with A.Z. Thomas taking a quote-unquote dirty shot on Omar Cooper Jr. So you want practice to be back and forth. So you want the offense to win some days and you want the defense to win. The unfortunate thing is that it's a catch-22 because if the offense has a good day, you're going to say, damn, well, the defense didn't look that good. And this is the same team that, that ranked dead last in turnovers. And then if the defense has a good day, you're like, wow, is Geno really cooked? So it's a catch-22 training camp.
Yeah, no, certainly. I want to transition over to the main storylines these past few days, which unfortunately have been injuries. A few days ago, we got news from Aaron Glenn at the podium that Kenyon Sadiq suffered a setback in his hernia procedure that took place in May. They're confident that he will be ready for week 1, but when you say confident in week 1, that means he's certainly, at least the way I took it, he's certainly going to be done for the rest of training camp and the preseason. They're just going to shut him down and hope he's ready until then. And then David Bailey left practice early today with an ankle injury, although Aaron Glenn indicating that he will be fine. It's nothing serious, and hopefully he will be back out on the field sometime soon. VJ Payne, though, suffered more of a serious injury, a bone bruise that is going to leave him out for 4 to 8 weeks. I think it was communicated, 4 to 6, sorry, that was communicated by Glenn earlier today. So a lot of injury news. And Omari, now 3 of the Jets' 4 top draft picks this year, 3 of the Jets' 4 top 50 selections from the draft have sustained injuries throughout training camp. D'Angelo Pons with the calf strain, Kenyon Sadiq with the hernia setback, and now David Bailey with the ankle injury. So not something you want to see. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
No, it's not what you want to see, but it happens though, and unfortunately it happens because these guys, you look at D'Angelo Pons and Omar Cooper, they played a 15-week season in college. So they've been at it pretty much for almost a calendar year now. So they went into camp, they went an entire football regular season, then they had the college playoffs, and you got to ramp up for the draft process and the combine. So they've really been running through it. So I think, this rest is good for a guy like Kenyon Sadiq, who also Oregon had a deep playoff run as well, too. So I think the rest is going to be good for him. The rest is going to be good for D'Angelo Pons. As long as it's not serious, as long as nobody's getting carted off and it's nothing that's going to be 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks or anything like that. As long as there's a, structural damage, I think they'll be able to get over. it. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, to be honest, I have my concerns to some degree, Omari, and I spoke to a doctor, a sports orthopedic surgeon, and wrote a story about it on Jets X Factor. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely recommend you guys doing so, because he hasn't worked on Kenyon Sadiq. He's not a Jets team doctor, but someone who's a medical professional and has insights on such an injury and what setbacks look like and just the severity of everything. Based on my conversation with him, what I took away from that is I don't really doubt that Kenyon Sadiq will be ready for week 1. I think he'll suit up and he'll be there in Tennessee. My question, though, is to what extent? This is someone who is entering his rookie season who not only has a lot of terminology to learn with Frank Reich and this new system, But at the same time, like I'm a Kenyon Sadiq fan. I'll put it out there. I was talking about him right before the combine as an option I would consider for the Jets at 16. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. He's still a very raw player. Tantalizing ceiling, absolutely. Strong athletic profile, pass catching upside, for sure. Not arguing that. But at the end of the day, he is someone who is very young, who is very raw. And I think this is a guy, even before the hernia injury, who could take a little bit to get settled into the NFL. And I don't think that indicates he's a bust or anything like that, but maybe he doesn't come right out of the gate with a 700-yard season or an 800-yard year. Now this hernia injury, this issue, this setback, whatever you want to call it, kind of pushes the can down the road a little bit and is going to delay things for him in terms of getting acclimated and carving out a role. You hope that it doesn't flare back up. They kind of just take care of it now, sit him out, kind of like you mentioned, Omari, which was a good point. And then he's good to go to the season. It doesn't flare back up. But this comes back to a point that I've emphasized all off season long. That was a major scare for me is I think the Jets have far too much reliance on their rookies, particularly in the passing attack this year. Kenyon Sadiq doesn't get off to a strong start of the year. If Omar Cooper Jr. doesn't live up to that first round billing right away, the Jets are going to feel the repercussions in the passing game. So this kind of all goes back to my main point of like, hey, I think the Jets are relying a little too much on these rookies right out of the gate.
Well, yeah, I think that's a valid worry and that's a valid concern. But what I would say is, I think in a perfect world, you're relying on second-year tight end Mason Taylor to handle the bulk share and the bulk targets of the tight end room. And you're also hoping that third-year wide receiver A.D. Mitchell is the person that's going to be taking, the lion's share of that. And then also Isaiah Williams as well, too. I think, I tell people all the time, like Kenyon Sadiq, he's intoxicating. He's big, he's fast. You're thinking about everything, especially with the rise in 12 and 13 personnel. But I think in a perfect world, Mason Taylor he's getting the lion's share of the targets in the tight end room. And then you're hoping that A.D. Mitchell is second in wide receiver target share as well, too. So I think, listen, you want to bring those guys along slowly, but then you also want them to earn their usage. So I think in a perfect world, the Jets are hoping that Taylor is tight end 1, at least to start the year. AD is wide receiver 2. And then you can bring along Cooper and Sadiq as they get more comfortable. And I tell people all the time, I think that, we should slow down. I think I would love to be wrong about this as well, too. I think Kenyon Sadiq getting 700 yards, I just think that that's almost double the yardage that I think that he's going to get. I think a solid year for Kenyon Sadiq is learning multiple positions, taking advantage of your matchups. Frank Reich showing that he can put him in, positions to succeed. Yeah. And I think a good year for him would be about 44 receptions and like 450 yards. And he's a legitimate red zone weapon. And then we can grow on that in year 2. Because tight end, unless you're one of the elite tight ends that had a ton of college production from a receiving standpoint, not many guys come into the league and hit the ground running. It's been Brock Bowers, Colson Loveland, Tyler Warren, and then Harold Fanning. So it's not that many guys that have been able to come in and hit the ground running. Sam Laporta did have a strong year, but Sam Laporta had 150 targets. So it's very rare for a tight end to come right in and be dominant right away.
My expectation for Sadiq long-term, though, Omari, is be an all-around weapon. And I don't think that's too far-fetched. Like, he tidies up the route running a little bit, has to eliminate the drops. There's no doubt about it. But mentioned it earlier on, the ceiling, the athleticism, there's so much there that is reason for excitement. I like Taylor as the go-to guy in the red zone, second in contested catch rate last year behind just George Kittle, nearly 80%. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's able to accomplish near the goal line. With Sadiq, though, like, hey, is this someone they could utilize on tight end screens and then just develops into a yak machine? Is that his role? Are you able to use him on, in the slot and play him as a slot receiver like you did a ton at Oregon? And you mentioned Isaiah Williams. That's a guy that I kind of want to segue into because I did a piece a couple weeks ago for us over at JetX, kind of breaking down how I expect the Jets to use the slot this year and things of that nature, who will fit in to the picture. Isaiah Williams finished second on the team last year in slot snaps. So he was in the slot a ton last year. I think it was either second or first. I should actually probably go back and check that. Nevertheless, it was like a significant, it was second. Yeah, significant amount of snaps that he took in the slot. 147, which was 66.8% of the routes he ran. And we heard it again today. Glenn is a huge fan of his. He is going to reward guys who work hard, who are able to block, who make a difference on special teams. If Isaiah Williams can become a wide receiver 4 for you, that's a pretty darn good steal, assuming his production on special teams remains similar to last.
Yeah, and I think that it would be a pretty cool developmental story for this regime as well, too. A lot of people always ask, what did Aaron Glenn do good? What did this coaching staff do good? I think you could look at guys like Jawan Briggs. You can look at Isaiah Williams and say, hey, listen, these are guys that Isaiah Williams undrafted, I believe. Jawan Briggs, 7th round pick. These are guys that are going to be contributors and a part of the rotation. A lot of people talk about 11 personnel. Everybody's so enamored with the 12 and 13 personnel with the tight ends and what you're able to do. But I think the Jets are going to there's going to be a lot of 10 personnel too. So that, no tight ends probably on the field. And you're going to have Omar Cooper Jr., Garrett Wilson, A.D. Mitchell, and Isaiah Williams all taking advantage of their matchups. And the cool thing I do like is that all of those guys, outside of A.D., he's a different type of guy. He wins, he wins at the catch break and at the catch point. But Isaiah Williams, Garrett Wilson, and Omar Cooper, they went off the line. So they win quickly. You can get the ball in their hands and then just allow them to do what they do, and that's yards after catch. I mean, Isaiah Williams, you can get him the ball in space and allow him. He's a phenomenal punt returner. So that translates when you get the ball into his hands. And Omar Cooper Jr. broke 40% of tackles. I think he led the nation in forced tackles and forced missed tackles. So
fourth he finished with 27 last year. He was a dog. Yeah.
And then I believe his percentage was around 43%, right? He had like something 43% like missed tackle percent. It was astronomical. So I think there's going to be a lot. I think we're going to see a lot of four-man, 2x2, 3x1 looks. So for 3x1, so that means trips to one side and you single out another receiver on the backside for people that are listening. So I think that, and this is what I mean by putting pressure on the defense. So I think you're going to be able to spread the teams out. Then once you do that, you'll be able to run the ball out of some of those looks as well too. You're going to actually be able to run the ball out of some of those shotgun looks, and you're not going to be looking at a stacked box. That's all Breece Hall has seen the last few years. So I think it's going to allow them to be multiple. And that's what, and that's another thing I was looking at my notes here. That's what Frank Reich said. The offense is going to be able to be multiple. So some series you're going to see them come out and they're going to be able to run like a 23 personnel with Braylon Allen if you're just looking to really establish the run. And then some series you're going to be able to take advantage of those matchups. So if a team is really weak with their cornerback depth, you should test that out. So now we're going to force you to cover all 4 of our receivers plus Breece Hall out of the backfield. And then things can really get tricky. So I'm really looking forward to see, week 1, because Frank Reich even said it's going to be vanilla next week. So I'm really looking forward to see how they're going to take advantage of the Titans week 1.
I want to talk about just the tight end room as a whole. It's so funny, just like looking back last year, I remember how adamant I was about them being so weak in that regard and being like, the Jets need to add a tight end because I mean, the room was Taylor is a rookie, and then behind him, Jeremy Ruckert, Neil Johnson, Stone Smart, and I guess if you want to classify Beck as a tight end, you could do so. Now I think you can make a case it's one of the strongest areas on their depth chart. I mean, having a new first-round pick, it's Sadiq in the fold, Taylor coming off a promising rookie year, Ruckert's best season yet that earned him an extension. Even the guy they picked up the other day from Marist, Connor Holstein, led the FCS in receiving yards for tight ends last year. I think it's an exciting room as a whole. The one name I haven't mentioned yet, though, is Jelani Woods, someone who the Jets picked up on waivers last year. I mean, didn't contribute at all, really, in the regular season. Was only active for a handful of games. Didn't see him get involved in the passing attack when he was out there. Someone, though, a direct connection to Frank Reich, a third-round pick under his watch in Indianapolis. I mean, a 10.0 RAS guy. Injuries have been the thing that hinders him. Like, the talent is there, the size, the pass-catching ability, his just ability to win in contested situations. The talent and just the overall chops are there for Jelani Woods. We just haven't seen him put it all together yet due to injury. He's someone who has really, really caught my eye throughout training camp, just following along, listening to these pressers, too. Geno Smith Jelani Woods was the first guy Geno Smith called out when he was asked to mention someone he's been impressed by throughout training camp so far. Frank Reich spoke a little bit about him today. Omari, I know it's early, it's ahead of the preseason. Does Jelani Woods stick around? Gun to your head right now. on the
I
Jets
think
53-man roster.
I think Jelani Woods does stick around, and I remember too,
Okay.
because you know every draft process, I'm sure you do. We fall in love with
Yeah.
just random guys. Like this past year, I was just people probably thought that Jaden Duggar's agent was giving me money. So there's just random guys that we always just fall in love with. And I remember I love Jelani Woods coming out. I believe he was out of Virginia, so 6'7", 265. That's exactly what you want a tight end to look like. And I think the cool thing about it, I think he'll make the team, one, because he speaks Frank's language. So he's able to echo the message and can kind of explain what Frank is looking for and what he's thinking in certain situations. And the thing I like about Jelani Woods is that he always can find a soft spot in the zone. And you do need guys like that's incredibly important. And also, guys get injured. Your Mason Taylor missed time last year. Jeremy Ruckert is a nice story. Listen, we're both Long Island kids, so shout out to Jeremy Ruckert. But again, Jeremy Ruckert, I think when Jeremy Ruckert is your tight end 3, that is exactly, I think everybody is slotted exactly where they're going to be. So I do think that they're going to carry 4 tight ends. And if not, he's going to be on the practice squad and he's going to stick around. But I do think the tight end room is one of the better spots on the team, because I'm not fully out. I fully understand that tight end, like, you have a ton of things. You basically have to be an offensive lineman and a receiver. So tight end, the developmental runway is a little bit longer than some people are willing to be patient for. So I do think that Taylor's going to take a step. And what I think, what we don't get right away with Kenyon Sadiq, you're going to be able to get a little bit with a Ruckert, with a Jelani Woods. And I'm not saying, when I tell people all the time, when you're looking at the tight end position, don't look at one of those guys individually. Look at the room as a whole.
Sure.
I think if the Jets are able to get 60 to 70 receptions and close to 1,000 yards from that room, I think that we could say, hey, listen, the Jets offense was humming at certain points of the season and it didn't look completely dead. So that's how I would look at it. I think he's going to make the team, but I really hope that fans look at that tight end room as a whole and allow especially the 2 younger guys to develop a little bit before we really come to an agreement or say what they are.
Are you predicting that Andrew Beck will earn a spot on the roster too, or do you think it's a situation where Woods is in, Beck is out? Kind of talk me through that process, because it's sort of a dilemma if you really think about it with all the guys they have in this offensive roster at skill positions.
So I do think that Beck is going to end up being the fullback, and I think that he's going to make the team earlier on, and then I think at some point down the line they'll probably eliminate Beck because they're going to have Ruckert and Sadiq playing that move, fullback, H-back role a little bit. But I think he's going to make the team early on because he's going to be on specials. And I do think that they want to carry 1 fullback.
He was such a valuable piece last year. Like, I think he needs to be on this team. Special teams are just opening up opportunities. When you look back at the returns and just the big plays that they had last year, whether that be return touchdowns or a 40-plus yard return to start a drive near the red zone, picking up blocking assignments. Finished second, I think, in receiving touchdowns for the Jets last year with 2, as sad as that is. But he's someone I think needs to stick around. I just think the offensive depth chart is starting to get tight. It is. A lot of it will hinge on what they do at quarterback. If Klubnik wins the job, or in my opinion, if it's close by any step of the yard, I think it goes to him, and you roll with 2 quarterbacks on the 53 and Gino and Klubnik. Your running back room, you have Brees, Kene Nwangu, Isaiah Davis, Braylon Allen. Then in the receivers, you're most likely going to roll with 6, however you may configure that, depending on who sticks around, who doesn't. Tight ends, in this situation, you'd have 4. You're going to at least have 9 offensive linemen. You're looking at, in that case, like 26 guys on your offense alone. So we'll see what happens. We'll see who emerges in the preseason, right? Like, training camp doesn't always tell the whole story. Did we see Jamal Pritchett breaking out on the training camp practice field last year? Quentin Skinner, not particularly, but it's every year, Omari. It's like, this is my 3rd year now covering the team, countless as a fan, of course. But just looking at the end of the depth chart so closely, it's like you fall in love with these guys during the preseason, then they end up sticking around on the roster and they don't really end up doing much. So we have all these cutthroat arguments of tight end 4, offensive lineman 10, and the impact that it actually has in the regular season is negligible.
And then those guys just end up either being practice squad guys or they get picked up somewhere else and then they never materialize. So it happens every year. I think one spot that they might carry less than we're normally seeing is maybe linebacker. And that's why the VJ Payne injury, I feel, is probably going to be a little bit bigger. Or maybe I'm just high on VJ. See, look, there it is right now. I'm higher on a 7th round pick than more people, because I thought the linebacker, we already know the linebacker room is pretty weak, but I thought maybe VJ or even Minka could maybe get some snaps at linebacker in some of those sub packages. So, because I think outside of, I know Michael Walker's been flashing a little bit, but outside of Keith, nobody in that room that's really ascending to where, you and I are thinking like, okay, this guy needs a roster spot. So I think guys like Beck, because what I want to see with Beck, I want Geno to have as many dump off and quick options as he can. I don't want him sitting back there, facing pressure. I want him to get rid of the ball as quickly as possible. So that's why Beck is so valuable in that point. But in a couple weeks, for the people in the chat, we'll do a 53. We'll do a 53-man roster breakdown to see who's going to make the roster. But yeah, that'll be interesting.
Ladies and gentlemen, hit like, hit subscribe. Questions, comments, thoughts, throw all those in the chat. We will get to those. I'm Connor Long, joined by Omari Brown, right here on a Saturday edition of NY Fly Jets Talk, presented by Jets X Factor. Thank you all for joining us right here on the channel. Kick things off with Eli. Says, Connor, I've noticed there's been a lack of holdouts this offseason. Is the tide turning? Are players willing to attend camp while waiting for a new deal? That's a good point, Eli. I'm happy you brought that up. I think it could be a mix of that, but also just teams starting to reward their own guys. I can't remember an offseason, at least within the past 5 years, where I've seen this many extensions and just like guys continuing to up the market at wide receiver, at offensive line, at running back, things of that nature. I think it's a balance of both the element and the part of the equation that you bring up with players being more willing to attend camp. I mean, we've seen that holdouts don't particularly work in every case. Let's just go back to the Hassan Reddick situation 2 summers ago. That should tell you all you really need to know. I think it's a mix of that, but also just teams starting to realize that you got to reward your homegrown guys.
Yeah, specifically for the Jets, I would just say it's been a extremely long time since the GMs and our front office for the Jets has been proactive. So they were proactive last summer with the Garrett and the Sauce Gardner deals, and they've been proactive this year with the Joe Tippmann and the Breece Hall deals. And it pays to be proactive too, especially when there aren't that many questions about who you're giving these extensions to, because what happened? Now you don't have to worry. Like, Breece already got his money, so he can feel how he feel, even though Breece isn't in that elite tier. But he already got his money, so you got ahead of it. So now you don't have to negotiate against the Jahmyr Gibbs or the Devon Achane deals. You got it done. He's in camp. Everybody's on time. Everybody's doing well. You look at the Ben Bergeron deal. You look at the Pete Skoronski deal. Those are massive deals. And you were able to get Joe Tippmann. I think Joe Tippmann's going to probably end up being ninth, 8th or 9th in terms of guard extension. So it pays to lock your guys up before everybody else starts getting paid. So that's just another tip in the cap and another, good notch, positive notch for Darren Muji. But it is good to see a lot of guys, especially younger guys that are being rewarded for being, good players. And it really is cool, Connor, to see that the running back market is getting paid.
I agree with you there 100%. And with Breece, just kind of put it in perspective, when that deal was signed, his AAV was 4th among running backs in the league. Now it's 8th, just 3 months later, 4 months later, now before the season even begins. It's living proof of it pays to get deals done early. Get it out of the way. Like, why wait? You know who Breece Hall is. You know who Joe Tippmann is. My worst nightmare is you lose those guys for nothing in free agency or a comp pick because you don't want to reward them, or you have to trade them at the deadline because you can't get an extension done, or they come in and outplay expectations and they want a crazy deal that you can't fulfill, and you could have got them at a cheaper rate in the offseason. So I think this also kind of goes back to the Jets' internal front office, not only Darren Muji, but the personnel department run by Robbie Patton and the pro scouts that they have, being able to get in Muji's ear and identify, hey, this guy's a legitimate player. Let's go after him. I mean, that's been evident in the trades they've made too. Harrison Phillips, Jawan Briggs, just kind of being in this content creation business and, working at a credentialed website, you just pick up on the ways that front offices operate throughout the league. And I think the personnel department and just the pro scouts as a whole with the Jets, I mean, it plays a role with every team, but in particular, the Jets, I think they have done an excellent job just identifying talent and then going out and landing them.
Yeah, and I also love that. I love to see year over year progression by a general manager. Usually, their worst drafts are their first draft. They haven't been able to get all of their guys in. The scouting philosophies from the GM and sometimes the coaching staff doesn't always mirror up with what the scout is. So I think this draft is better than last draft, but there's still some building blocks from last draft. So it's good, when your 7th overall pick, you got Connor Rogers saying that he's arguably the best player on the team. And now you're starting to see the number 2 overall pick, because the last regime had a number 2 overall pick, and that guy he's bouncing around on teams. So it's cool to hear that. Hey, it feels good to when you're the team that you're a fan of, you say, okay, all right, we got one. So it sounds like David Bailey is making waves, and he's doing exactly what a number 2 overall pick. So yeah, you are right. So, shout out to Robbie Patton and all those internal guys as well, too. It seems like these are guys that there's not many questions about, so it's good that these guys can hit the ground running and they look like, oh yeah, that guy's a first round pick.
Certainly. Eli also says, what are your thoughts on bringing in Jared Stidham to back up Geno? Seems like Sam Ehlinger is going to be the backup in Denver. I feel like this is a situation that we'll monitor as camp progresses. I know our guy Robbie wrote a story at JetX yesterday, kind of talking about how he doesn't think the Jets have a legitimate QB2. And I think that carries weight because not only is Robbie smart, knows the game really well, but I think he's been out in Florham Park for every practice. So he's getting a really good inside look at both Bailey Zappi and Cade Klubnik that the general public, the fans, haven't had access to. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Although, like, the preseason is going to decide this. I think that's the biggest. It's kind of like the kicking competition too. You could talk about all you want with fake stats during training camp. The preseason, when guys are padded up, when you're not wearing the red penny, that's when it's actually going to start to matter. But I mean, I guess Stidham could be in the conversation, not out of the question.
Yeah, sure. You could throw Stidham's hat into the huge ring that's going to be.
Yes.
I think the Jets are going to make a move. I think this preseason is going to be about getting Cade Klubnik as many reps as you possibly can. And then I think towards the end of the preseason, they're going to wait for whichever vet QB, wants out that lost the backup competition for some other team. I don't think that Darren Muji is going to go into or Aaron Glenn can go into this season with Cade Klubnik and Bailey Zappi as your quarterback too. But again, right now, it's not an issue because I think that you can be one Geno Smith injury away from it looking exactly like it did in 2025, and they don't have that. They can't afford that. They don't have that luxury. So, yes, I think that we should be monitoring any backup, veteran QB competition around the league. That's maybe that could be another show in a couple weeks. But, yeah, sure. Yeah. Jared Stidham. Yeah, he's been around. He started a playoff game, but Denver fans will say unfortunately. So sure, I would take anybody that started an NFL game that can run an NFL offense.
Andy Dalton's another name that's been discussed. I mean, you can make a case for any of these guys. It's like pick your quarterback at at this point. I mean, I'd rather have Bailey Zappi than Sam Ehlinger. Like,
same.
I don't know. I feel like you got to comp these guys to Bailey Zappi. And I know he didn't play last year, but there's no point, in my opinion, to adding another guy if it's just Bailey Zappi 2.0, who's actually been fine when he's started games. Has he been great? No, there's a reason why he doesn't have a starting job in the league right now. And if he gets a QB2 job, he'd probably be towards the lower end there. But I mean, 4-5 throughout 9 starts, 3 wins on the road. It's kind of all you can ask for really out of a QB2. So again, that we'll see that unfold throughout the preseason. The way I think they'll handle things, if I had to make a prediction, is Klubnik is the QB2, assuming he's not abominable throughout the preseason. And then it's either Zappi or someone else on the practice squad.
That's fair. I mean, I'm always in favor of adding talent, especially to the quarterback position. So somebody's going to ask out. A lot of people may not like this because people are just dead set against trading 2027 draft capital. But again, maybe you try to send like a day 3 pick for, one of those younger veteran QBs that have just outstayed their welcome. Spencer Rattler. I always say that. But this is in the event that Geno Smith has sustains like a huge injury and Cade Klubnik doesn't look good with it there. So I'm I don't want it, Connor. I don't want it to be where if, God forbid, we're knocking on wood here, Geno gets hurt and then we just completely throw in the white flag. I still want to be able to evaluate Cooper. I still want to keep Garrett Wilson engaged. I still want to make sure. Yeah, I still want to see what AD Mitchell is, because soon you're going to be talking extension with him as well too. And then hopefully he shows enough. We're talking about being proactive. Another thing you could do if AD Mitchell gets off to a hot start, sign him to an extension. And really get it before he really turns into, before he blows up like George Pickens. And then we're talking about, franchise tagging him. So again, I think this is all about the development of the offense, because to be honest with you, this is probably the best wide receiver core they've had since Decker, B. Marshall, and Enunwa. Being able to attack you from almost anywhere on the field and the talent level. And then before that, you got to go to the flight boys. So I think if there's an injury, I think you need to get somebody in there that is capable of getting everybody the ball.
AD Mitchell's been so frustrating to watch. Even his rookie year with the Colts, he's open. Like, go and watch the film. He is wide open. He hasn't had a quarterback who can get him the football. Geno, I think, can do that. I'm cautiously optimistic with Geno. Where are you, Omar? Has your opinion shifted on him at all throughout training camp? I mean, I think he could have the best Jets quarterback year we've seen since Fitzpatrick. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. Is it possible? Absolutely. I think he's more than capable of leading the Jets to, at the very least, a tier of respectability, being able to evaluate the roster, kind of like you alluded to earlier on.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for Geno to do. I'm looking for Geno not to put the team in any, sketchy situations while taking some risks. So I think I'm just going to evaluate Geno on how he's able to distribute the ball, to be honest. So I'll be able to give a better, more informed take after I watch him in the joint practice. But yeah, I don't have big expectations for Geno. I don't think he's as bad as he was with the Raiders, and I don't think he's as good as he was in 2024 and 23 with Seattle. So he's going to be somewhere in between. But I think that he can give at least what Aaron Rodgers was giving that last year here. So if you tell me that if we look up and Geno has over 3,500 yards, 21 TDs, and maybe like 12 to 14 interceptions, I would sign up for that. I would literally sign up for that, because I think that, the Jets would be competitive.
I think if Geno Smith delivers the year Aaron Rodgers did in 2024, that would be awesome. And something might sound contradictory, because I did not want Rodgers back. Didn't want anything to do with him. I thought that was kind of a one and done. Obviously, after the Achilles issue there, didn't think it was worth bringing him back. But I mean, Rodgers just fell short of expectations. That was so disappointing, and that's to put it mildly. Geno, the expectations aren't anywhere near the realm that Rodgers were in. So, if you're telling me he throws 28 touchdowns like Rodgers did and 11 interceptions and 3,800 passing yards, whatever it was, shoot, sign me up. With this roster, that could be an 8-win team. I mean, that could that could,
depending on what the defense does.
Yeah, they won 7. I mean, not 7. Sorry, they won 5 with Rodgers that year, with a head coach change in season. No one on offense, nowhere near the level of offensive line. Like, the roster right now is just objectively better than it was then. You hope more stability on the coaching staff, but I mean, I think that's plausible. Not out of the picture. O'Rourke Law says, I've heard that Braylon Allen is looking like a beast. Have you seen him in pads yet? This is funny, Omari. I've called Braylon Allen the workout warrior for about a year now. He's looking like a beast. Have you seen him? And then get into the regular season. I mean, this past year was the knee injury in week 4 after his fumble near the goal line to begin that game. But it's just, man, you can't make it up with Braylon Allen.
I know. Everybody loves Braylon Allen. They love the cutoff t-shirts, the sleeveless shirts, the 3-inch shorts. Listen, man, I'm not going to talk I'm not going to get too crazy and talk about Braylon Allen, because, I might see him in the streets someday. Listen, I just want to see it in games, man. Braylon Allen is huge. He's 6'2", he's 240. He's got 7% body fat. He's gonna look good. He's aesthetically pleasing. Let's just see him do it against another team. Let's see him. Listen. Go out there and get 2 touchdowns week 1. Shut everybody up. But yes, Braylon Allen looks good. He looks good. He's out of central casting. If you were creating a player in NCAA and Madden, it'd probably come out looking like Braylon Allen. So yes, Braylon Allen looks like a football player. He looks good. Let's just see what he does against another defense. But I heard he scored today, so that was good.
Yes, sir. Could Cisco play linebacker like Adams? Is a question
Ooh.
in the chat. It's an interesting possibility. I worry. I guess you could say Adams has the same issue in terms of tackling. Cisco was just so bad with the tackling last year, but Jamal has been throughout the course of his career too. Angles, like you said. I'm just looking at like 6 foot 210. I mean, when you watch him, he looks a little smaller than that. Adams just, I think, is more bulked. Just he's stronger. Bigger, more physically imposing. Like he can I like. Here's where I like Andre Cisco, and I don't think enough people are talking about this: the turnover upside that he flashed 2 years ago in terms of interceptions. I think he had 4 that year with the Jaguars, and just consistently making plays around the ball. You move him to like a rover linebacker role, you kind of eliminate that. And I don't. Let's be honest, I don't really like anything else about Andre Cisco's game. Jamal Adams, he can force fumbles. He's a really good run defender. Can blitz and get sacks and generate pressures that way. I can't particularly say the same thing about Cisco. So, I mean, I like the creativity there. I just don't necessarily see the comp.
Yeah, listen, we're throwing, we're throwing darts at the board. I wouldn't have Andre Cisco. If anything, I would trust Minka more in the box than I would trust Cisco. And then at that point, Cisco's playing some deep third because I don't think Dane Belton is going to play deep third. Dane Belton's going to be closer to the line of scrimmage. So if you wanted to go with like some 3 safety looks where Belton is playing some big nickel or he's playing in the box, you got Cisco playing deep third, and then Minka playing some linebacker. You could probably do some looks like that. But that's exactly why I was high on BJ Payne. BJ Payne is a bigger. He's 6'3", 215. He's a good tackler, ridiculous wingspan. So obviously that's going to aid in tackling and getting his hands into some of those passing lanes. So that's why I was just looking at BJ Payne as more of a chess piece. But Connor, I want to throw this back at you. I think safety is probably one of the weaker spots on the team, even though you added Minka, because they don't really have a guy. Yeah, they don't really have a guy that is a ball hawk. I don't know if they have the horses that are going to be able to defend deep third. So tell me what you think about that.
I actually disagree with you there, to be honest. I like where they are right now. I think Belton has tremendous turnover upside. Like I don't think there are many more Dane. I would call myself a Dane Belton stan at this point.
Okay. All right.
Huge fan of his game. And I think what he can bring to the table, I'm trying to find the exact stat from last season in terms of just like what his turnovers were and being around the ball. Yeah, here it is. So throughout his career, he's only started 22 of 66 games. He's played 1,850 defensive snaps throughout 4 seasons. Despite that, though, 6 interceptions he's logged on just 1,104 coverage snaps, which is an interception for every 184 coverage snaps. So to put that in perspective, Minka's career average is 209.3, 21 career interceptions on 4,396 coverage snaps. So a little analytical there, a little in the weeds, but I just think if you turn him into a starting strong safety, I think that like you're talking about a guy who can come away with maybe 5 total takeaways this year. I don't think that's crazy. 2 interceptions, 2 or 3 forced fumbles, a fumble or 2 that he recovers. I'm looking forward to him. And then with Minka, right, we'll see. I understand the concerns with like interceptions and him maybe not being that same player these past few years, but also his role changed when he went to the Miami. There were the defensive coordinators coming in and out, different systems. He was asked to take on a different level of responsibility than he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he still remains one of the top safeties in the league. I don't necessarily think that's crazy. Finished 7th in overall grade from PFF last year, 9th in coverage. So you're talking about someone in my eyes who's still a top 10 safety. He forced a fumble last year. Wasn't awful in coverage. Again, 9th in terms of coverage grade from PFF there. I'm not too concerned with the safety room. Like among areas in the secondary, I would say I'm actually more concerned with cornerback than I am safety, just in terms of like a lack of a proven talent.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I'm talking in terms of I think Minka, and because Minka played more than a third of his snaps in the slot last year, and I doubt that he's going to be playing in the slot. They're going to have him playing deep third, and I think that's when you started hearing the concerns about Minka losing a step because he's playing deep third. So I'm talking just in terms of somebody being able to cover that deep third and being able to mitigate anything that the cornerbacks are gonna allow. So that's what I'm talking. And I think Dane Belton, he's going to be good, but a lot of his production comes closer to the line of scrimmage, right? You haven't pulled up his snaps by his position, so he's going to be closer in the box, right? Okay, so he played almost 100 snaps at free safety.
So, he played snaps everywhere. He played snaps in free safety.
So he's all over. Yeah, so I think all right. So maybe I am a little bit low on them, but I just don't think, when you go up against teams that are gonna be able to pressure the ball, deep. I just don't know if the Jets have somebody that's going to be able to cover that. I think in the intermediate, like a lot of the quick game that they allowed last year, I think that they're going to be able to neutralize that, especially now because you're going to have McDonald and Bailey providing a pass rush. But I think I still get a little wary, with AZ Thomas and Brandon Stevens covering guys deep. So I just wonder where that coverage eraser is going to come from.
I'm looking at the numbers right here by alignment for Belton. 272 in the box, 124 in the slot. 17 at wide corner, 278 at free safety. So you can play all over the map. I like that. He's a really good special teamer too. I'm looking forward to him for sure. And just there's going to be a lot of competition in the defensive DB room as a whole. Cornerback, free safety, strong safety. Him and Malachi Moore going at it. Kind of close with this, staying with the topic of just safety talk before we wrap things up. Talked about VJ Payne, his injury a little earlier on in the show, maybe what that means and putting him behind the 8 ball a little bit. Do you think there's a chance he gets cut? You think there's a chance that he is a part of cut down day and he's looking for a new home, or he comes back on the practice squad?
I mean, there is a chance because you have to be, listen, you're already starting behind the 8 ball being a 7th round pick. So, and it's unfortunate. So they're only going to carry 4 safeties, right? So it's Minka. Minka, Cisco, Malachi Moore, and Belton. So he was already.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish.
No. I was just saying. So, the numbers don't really match up. So he needed to really show some versatility, I thought, during camp. What were you going to say?
I was just kind of thinking about this as you can go carrying 4 safeties. Remember what they did with Jamarcus Weston last year? It was really good in the preseason, then got hurt down the stretch, carrying him into the year with an injury designation. I think they could do the same with Payne. Like,
good.
Kind of slow play this bone bruise a little bit, keep him out throughout the remainder of the preseason, and then go into the year with an injury designation, or he's on IR or something like that. And that buys you more time to kind of evaluate the safety room, see what you have there, what you want to do with him, maybe how you realign things. I mean, that would make the most sense, right?
Yeah, I think so too, because I think he would get picked off by another team. I just think, it's a copycat league. So a lot of these bigger safeties that have versatility, that can play multiple spots, I think those guys are going to be a premium. So you just look at him. He does have the tools. He's by no means a perfect player. He's kind of tight-hipped. He's kind of tight-hipped. He's pretty linear. So hopefully the chat isn't going to kill me by thinking that I think VJ Payne is going to become some star. I don't think that, but I do think he's going to be, you need versatile pieces at every level of your defense. And I think that he can be one of those, but that's truly smart. So with the injury designation, he has until week 4 or week 6 where you have to make a decision.
One of the two. Right? I think it depends. I think if you just put them on like short-term IRs.
Okay.
Yeah. I know because it's 4 weeks max, and then you make a decision. I suppose they could like wait and then have it be till week 6, but I think that's like a fair point. I kind of look at things in the NFL, especially when it comes to player performances in 3-game increments. So now you have like 3 games, and I think that's when you start to kind of get an idea of what that guy is going to be, at least for that season. Yeah, I mean, they're late season risers, of course, and things like that, especially a team like the Jets that have been so uncompetitive the past few years. There have been guys just injected into the lineup down the stretch who have been really impactful. But for the most part, you kind of get a sense of what those guys are going to be. Early on. Thank you all for joining us. Hit like, hit subscribe. Appreciate you all hanging out with us right here on the channel. Omari Brown hanging out with us right here on the program. Omari, thank you for taking the time as always, my friend. Final thoughts, football related, non-football related, feel free to share those. And then of course, if they're not already, let everyone know where they can find you and reach your work.
Listen, Jets related, it looks like the Jets have knocked their first two first-round picks in the Darren Muji era out of the park. Omari Membo looks like the best player on offense. So David Bailey is flashing. That's exactly what you want from the 7th overall pick and the number 2 overall pick. I think that offense is winning and defensive winning and going back and forth. That's exactly what you want to see. I think good teams, one side doesn't always dominate the ball. So for years, the Jets defense has always dictated the practices to the offense. And I think that, us hearing that there are some, back and forth, that's exactly what you want. In terms of where you can find me, Omari Brown, 2 eyes on Instagram, Twitter. I've been telling everybody YouTube is going up next week.
Let's go.
So, yeah, broadcasting my first show Friday after the post game. But yeah, always happy to jump on, Connor. Anytime you need me, let me know.
Let's roll. Thank you so much. Subscribe to Omari. Stay tuned for his new show that's coming out. Sure, that will be great. And I'm positive that everyone will enjoy it and be following along over there. Read both of us at jetsxfactor.com. Shows presented by JetX. Thank you all for hanging out. Hit like, hit subscribe. That'll do it for us. For Omari, I'm Connor saying have a great rest of your day, everyone. And as always, go Jets, baby. Peace out, folks.